So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. In the last episode we saw quite a few things happen, such as most importantly a Japanese civil war. Vietnam kind of ended up getting destroyed down here. We have the nuclear numbers be greatly improved upon. And quite a few other things, so if you guys haven't watched that already, definitely go watch that now. So yeah, let's just get into this one, let's go. So first, I'm actually going to be starting with the nuclear numbers. They are once again going to be increasing, and they're going to be increasing a lot, since every single country at this point is mass producing nuclear weapons. So let's get to it. So the Dark Red Union goes from 21 and 7 all the way up to 52 and 15. So where do those 15 go? So these are the updated nuclear numbers. As you can see, the Spanish actually gained 5, putting them up to 9. They used to have 4. While the Italians gained 2 and Carthage gains 1. And you can see that most of these definitely went to the Italian, the Spanish, because Portugal right next to them. Although there's still not been a nuke put in Wales yet, and that's kind of because they've Sweden and the Dark Red Union kind of agreed to denuclearize the British Isles. Why did they do that? Well, they just want peace in one area, and if they can't have that, then they can't have anything. So, well, let's just take a look at Sweden's number, shall we? So Sweden will go from 32 and 9 all the way up to 68 and 18, a massive increase. That's because since the Neo-Persian War, these two have been rapidly increasing their nuclear production to the point where they're going to be probably in the hundreds by the next episode. Like, they're getting faster and faster, producing more and more nukes. So as you can see here, Russia will gain 3, putting them at 8, and Portugal will also gain 3, putting them at 7. But there's still 3 nukes left. So where exactly are these 3 nukes going to be? Well, Sweden is going to be putting 2 nukes in Brazil, and they'll be putting 1 nuke in Mexico. This is going to shake things up. Sweden has just put the first nukes in the Americas. I mean, the Canadian Union, they did already have 1 nuke, but that doesn't matter. And the Dark Red Union, they're not just going to let this slide, so they are going to respond to this. Now, they're going to be responding by adding in Colombia to the Square Alliance, or Grand Colombia, whatever you want to call them. So that means that if there ever was a war to break out, then Mexico and Brazil would have some, issues to deal with. And you can definitely say that. But I haven't quite finished with nukes yet, as there is 1 country left that is going to get nukes in this episode. Oh wow. Egypt will create its first nuke in a completely secret program. No other country will know about this, and yeah, they have the nukes. So yeah, let's just leave Egypt alone for now, as I'm sure they're not going to do anything at any point. But at this point, we see some stuff happen in Europe. So now we are in the year 1956, and something major has just happened. On August the 25th, 1956, the Dark Red Union puts the first satellite in space. They are then followed a few days later by Sweden, and the space race has begun. Dark Red Union and Sweden will then send more satellites into space, and they'll be followed by other countries like the Canadian Union, Egypt. We have the Red Team doing it. We have places like Korea, Shandong. We also have India. Morocco's doing it as well, definitely, and a lot of other countries start doing it. And I'm just going to say, in the next year, quite a lot have been put in space. And then, in May of 1957, we have Sweden putting a man in space. The Dark Red Union had formerly put the first animal in space, that was a dog, back in December of 1956. However, unlike in our timeline, the dog actually survives, so yeah, that's a W. However, Sweden has just put the first man in space. And now, this is going to properly start the space race, which won't end in this episode, but it's going to end in the next episode with the first country getting to the moon. So you'll see who that is in the next episode. But anyway, let's get on to some other events that don't quite include the Cold War. And that's actually going to be over here in America with this Delmarva country. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but these guys were pretty heavily influenced by Florida in the past. However, now, once Florida turned to a dictatorship, they were no longer influenced by them as much. They then start to be influenced by the Canadian Union due to them being, like French. And this is going to lead to something now, as we have the official joining of the Delmarva country into the Canadian Union. Now, Florida is quite furious at this due to the fact that they are meant to be the top dog in North America, and now they have a country that is catching up to them very rapidly on the border. And you know how before the Canadian Union was kind of like pulling out of the Cold War, being like, you guys are quite crazy, we don't really want to be like this anymore. Yeah, now Florida's basically brought them back into the Cold War, and the whole cycle will begin again. Cycle? What? No. But they'll basically just be brought back into the Cold War, and more start to lean to the Dark Red Union once again, although they aren't as dependent as they used to be. Anyway, we're actually going to be sticking to the subject of unions, which is quite a big topic in this video, as now we go down to India. Now, this Indian country is definitely the strongest country in India. It has the best economy, best military, most population out of any country here. And then we have the orange country, who is not that strong. They're quite pathetic, they have a lot of potential. They are in a quite populated area, which is northern India. However, they are really, they're not it. Even the Indus, Pakistan country here, is slightly stronger than the orange team, and they are not doing great. So what they're going to do is actually unionize with this Indian country, and thus we have the formation of the Indian Union. Now they will be keeping the capital down in the old one of the Dark Scion team, but the Indian Union has officially been formed. And these guys will definitely go on to be a powerhouse in the future, and you'll see what they decide to do in the Cold War, because it could be quite interesting. But anyway, let's get to a war, and this war is going to be very stupid, as we have the South African country claiming over Antarctica. They claim over this region down here of Antarctica, and they say, the British Union used to own this, we should own it, and we are the direct kind of descendant of them, so why can't we have it? And in the end, they're basically going to make a decision to invade into the red team's Antarctic colony. Now, I know this is frozen over, but they gather some people to do it, and they kind of start falling. It's not very easy to do this, and they kind of just it kind of takes them a while. And the red team really isn't able to stop this. They're kind of just coming along the coastal areas here, and the red team just isn't really bothered. They don't really care. Go on, take Antarctica. It's not really that valuable. So they'll just decide it's not worth fighting this war. Just take what you want, Antarctica. So they will be giving Antarctica what they want. So in this peace treaty, they will just simply be gaining this land here. However, this does something to the government and makes them quite unstable. And the leader of this country, which this is, I believe, I think it's a full democracy. This is a full democracy. However, at this point, it's definitely become a fraud democracy, and the leader of this country is very not liked by the people, as he just basically sent innocent people to die down in Antarctica for absolutely no reason. So yeah, we'll see what happens with this in the next episodes. But next, we're actually gonna have a really big war. Oh, and also, I did add a territorial waters map. This is the full map, every country's kind of waters, what they own. So it's just basically a better way to see what's going on with them. But we're going to actually see a war between this pink or reddish, kind of light red country and Madagascar. Now, a few episodes ago, Madagascar did used to have a colony over here in Mozambique-ish, kind of this African area, and it looked something like this. However, they lost it to the pink team because it was more aligned with the culture and ethnicity of the pink team. So Madagascar is going to kind of want it back. And using their navy, which is actually quite strong for a country in Africa, they're going to be making a landing right down here. They're going to be brutally trying to take over this land right like this. They'll actually start to move around the coast quite a lot. However, a country isn't really going to like this, and this is going to be this greenish country here. They don't like how the Madagascarians are moving onto the mainland of Africa once again, so they're going to actually help the pink team out, and they will be joining the war on their side, instantly sending troops to liberate this territory away. So they will push up over here and just breach out Madagascar, and quite easily manage to push them back to this point. And they are holding out in this major city, and that's because this major city area is probably the most Madagascarian of the entire country. Which, is that how you say someone from Madagascar? Apparently you call them a Malagasy. So yeah, the Malagasys will continue to kind of push up around from the kind of most Malagasian area here. However, the pink team is going to have a bit of a struggle here now, as this grey country is going to decide to invade up in the north. They see this as a good opportunity to get some land, and they're going to take it and start an invasion down into this Tanzanian country. So they'll be able to do it quite well and even start to sneak down the coast. And yeah, the pink country's definitely having a decent war here. However, then a beacon of hope will shine for this pink country here, as Djibouti, one of the stronger African countries, will make an invasion in the north of this grey team and start rapidly going down and just taking a lot of land, since they do definitely have one of the best militaries in Africa. Probably third, maybe, I'd say Egypt is number one at this point, then it'd be Morocco, and then it would be Djibouti. That's just giving a better idea of the kind of rankings, I guess. Now, Djibouti actually did used to own this area. They owned this province where the capital is here, and that's kind of partially the reason why they're going after it. Because they want to take back their historical land, which they feel like they were kind of screwed over in the peace treaty of World War II. They didn't get as much as they wanted, so they're going to try and get revenge for it. And at this point, you could definitely call this the Greatest African War. It's a very big war. However, Madagascar is going to shine and definitely do a lot better down here. They are probably slightly stronger than the Rose Country. Like, at this point, they've definitely built up their military a lot for this invasion, so they're definitely slightly stronger. And they'll basically be able to kind of push a lot more with their military, which, as I said, is a lot stronger. They've been very heavily buffed for this. And they'll meet the border of the Green Country, in which they will start an invasion into them now, starting to go around this region and trying to near to their capital. However, it's not going very well for the Grey team up here at all, as their capital will be taken. I completely forgot about the territorial waters layer, oh my god. But yeah, Madagascar would have definitely taken a lot of these territorial waters up here. They would have, used their navy to do a lot, so yeah. And they're also closing on these islands over here, which should take one. However, the Djiboutian navy is going to just completely dominate the area, but then they have an idea to hopefully stop Madagascar. And that's if the Djiboutian navy is going to send up leagues of ships to go and invade into Madagascar. Madagascar's like, oh shit. And they're going to meet down here and get to here, which is where this island is, and they're basically going to kind of like camp here for a bit, and then eventually they'll launch their invasion as they come out and make it down here, in which they will then conquer or gain naval dominance around some of these areas, as the Djiboutian navy will start to move down just like this, destroying Madagascar, and eventually a naval landing is made in northern Madagascar. They will then withdraw many troops in their homeland area, or in this area, to fight for their homeland, in which the Green team will push back, and then we also have the Rose Country down here, pushing fully back against Madagascar, only because they basically withdrawn all their troops, in which the navy of the reddish pink country will be able to push back down here, and greatly near Madagascar. Unfortunately, the war kind of like lagged, the video lagged-ish thing, so I actually have to refilm this part. But basically what happened, Djibouti continued the naval invasion, this country got capitulated, and the pink country actually made a landing down in Madagascar, as you can see. But here in this deal, we have the pink country gaining a small colony down in Madagascar. And taking a look actually at the territorial waters layer, you can see that Madagascar basically loses a lot of their territorial waters and is given over to the pink country, in which they will also gain this away from the Kenyan country, which they will exist in a minute, as you'll see. But we'll also have Djibouti gaining this northern region here, and they'll be kind of split like this. These areas right here will just be split. What we actually see happening is the rest of this country just deciding to unite over with this green one, and we have, I guess, the East African Union forming, which makes it sound like it's going to be a strong country, but no, it's really not. Simply enough, these two countries will unionise. Djibouti's happy, these guys are really happy because they're not going to have to deal with this little sucker anymore. But these guys will end up winning. They also do get Zanzibar over here. And we're actually going to see a pact be formed between these guys in an economical alliance. We'll see the Triangle Economical Alliance being formed. This is like an African Indian Ocean alliance, or mainly it's just an Indian Ocean alliance. Any country in the Indian Ocean is allowed to join this, however, it will just be these guys for now. And yeah, that's it for this segment. Let's take a look at something else. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention earlier, but the Indian country will stay in the AEU. Anyway, over here in Asia, we're going to see a union form, and that's going to be this red country here, joining up with Shandong. These guys just weren't doing great in their like economy or anything, and Shandong's like an open country. They allow basically unions to join them, and in a step to kind of unite Asia, which we've seen these guys united, and these guys united, and we're going to see these guys unite with Shandong, and Shandong expands a lot, and we have the Shandongians becoming to looking a lot bigger at this point. After Neo-Persia fell, there was kind of a vacuum in Asia for power, and Shandong has taken that opportunity, and yeah, they've become a big powerhouse in Asia, a very influential country. I'll actually show you their influence right now. The Shandongian sphere of influence is massive. They have influence over Siberia, all these Chinese countries down here. They have influence over this pink country, also Manchuria. Even going down into Burma as well. Yeah, you can just see the amount of power and influence that Shandong has over like the Chinese areas and also just East Asia in general. So that is how much of a powerhouse they've become in the last few episodes, and yeah, pretty cool, eh? Then we move down over here to this desert country. They're going to collapse. Yeah, I'm not even going to lie, they're going to collapse. And they're going to be split between a few countries, and they'll also be given a new government. This is going to be the kind of treaty for this country in Africa, and they kind of get a little bit screwed. Morocco will gain the more Moroccan areas of this country. They were quite heavily influenced by them, and they will just gain the areas that were most influenced. We actually see Libya gaining this area here, and pretty similar to Morocco. They just had a heavy influence down here, and the rest of this country will be getting a new government. Also, these areas don't line up with the provinces, and I'm going to fix that now. Something interesting about this country is their dictatorship is actually going to be replaced with a different ideology. If you can tell already, they are going to be replaced by communism. Communism is finding its way over here, and you may be saying, well, Morocco is a full democracy. Why would they care? No, because Morocco is literally just turned into a full democracy. And their government is actually, consideringly, experimenting with ideologies like socialism. So, I think kind of know what that means. Very soon in Africa, could be a certain ideology finding its way over here in this western area. Down here, we actually see the AEU follow out a mission, and that is going to be in this country here. Now, they actually, some reason, stayed fascist after the Neo-Persian War. The dictator didn't want to lose power, but unfortunately now he's going to be. As Blue Xinjiang will be given an order to invade this country and replace its dictatorship with a democratic one. And they'll carry that one out. Blue Xinjiang is miles strong in this country. This country is not strong at all. So they'll be blasted through by the Xinjiangian country, and eventually the capital will be captured. And they'll go up here, they'll capture the capital. However, the dictator does escape to another city. But with satellites now, they are able to find out kind of where his location is. And he is currently hiding up in this major city here. And it's quite a way away from any other country like Blue Xinjiang or any other AEU nation. So simply what they're going to do is they are going to give this, say, hey, if you guys invade into this place here, we're going to give you quite a bit of some land from this country. And this country will be deciding, hey, okay, fine, we'll accept it. They themselves are a flawed democracy, so I'm sure they will want to see the democracy flourish kind of in the world. So we have them invading in and taking out the dictator, with a lot of support from the CEU, obviously, and they arrest him and trial him. And yeah, we eventually see a new government be put in place in this country, and let's take a look at what that is going to be. Or should I say, let's take a look at the peace treaty. So, very simple peace treaty. This country will simply gain this one province up here, and a new government will be put in charge, and the government will be turned away from fascism into a flawed democracy. In fact, at this point, I would say that Shandong and a few other of these countries are actually full democracies. So yeah, they just a lot of them will turn into full democracies. So yeah, that's a pretty cool and interesting thing we see happen. And yeah, I don't know what happened, but for some reason every single monarchy in the world was turned into a full democracy. That might have been a result of the last episode. I might have accidentally coloured something in with flood mode, but I fixed it now, and there are now actual monarchies in the world, unlike last time. Just catch one here and there. It's really annoying. That's sad. We're actually going to be seeing something very interesting happen down here in Hungary, and that is the rise of nationalism. As all of these countries, these three down here, really want to reform Hungary. This area is a bit more debatable since they are actually getting more inspired by Poland now, but it's mainly these three here, and they're going to be doing something, and that is going to be the reformation of Hungary. Hungary wasn't really banned from existing in the peace treaty. They were just simply split up because the powers didn't want them to exist anymore. But they now look like this, and the capital will be moved back over to where it always used to be, which is actually in Slovakia for some reason. I don't know why, but it just is. And yeah, the nation of Hungary is back for anyone who likes that. And you may ask, well, what's going to happen next with this? And I'm going to show you. Now, obviously, there's a Cold War. There's two sides. There's one, the Star side, who is more favourite of a monarchy, and there's the Square side, who is more favourite of democracy. And when this nation comes back, it is kind of blank, and it doesn't have any ideology they can go off of. Now, the old Hungarian monarchy is dead. They were pretty much all killed in the war, and they were given a new monarchy in this country. However, it just wasn't the same, and they weren't very popular anyway, which is partially some of the reason why. What is going on? Which is partially some of the reason why this union even formed in the first place. But we then have the Darker Union and Sweden trying to influence this thing. And there'll be several diplomats from both countries coming in, but we'll eventually have a country in the end that manages to do something. They will kind of rig something, and in the end it leads to something. And we have Hungary turning into a democracy. And with this new pro-Dark Red Union government, they will eventually decide to join up with the Squares. This is a big loss for Sweden, as Eastern Europe was kind of their play zone. They were able to influence a lot of stuff in Eastern Europe. But now with Hungary back, and them also being a democracy, it gives the Dark Red Union the ability to, well, influence more things. And let's just say this is not the old Hungarian government, this isn't the one that was with the Triangle Alliance, it's a new government, but same kind of culture, same like history-ish thing. You can say this is the successor state to Hungary. So yeah, let's just bring that to light. And also, this is going to be where I'm going to be ending today's video. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I think it was okay. In the next episode, we will actually be seeing the end of the space race and some other things happening. But anyway, that's going to be it for now. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.